years. It'll be 6 years in May. Who here has been with Scentsy for longer than a year? I have. I love it. Keep your hand up if you've been with us longer than 2. Longer than 3. Longer than 4. Longer than 5. Longer than 6. Wow, we've got some people who've been in here for a while. I love to see that. Absolutely, that's wonderful. I'm so excited to celebrate my 6-year Scentyversary. There's been some things that have happened since I joined that I truly never believed could happen. Some of you might have heard my story before, but I always like to share my story for those of you who haven't heard it. And also, I think hearing stories is really important because hearing other consultants' stories is what actually changed my personal business dramatically. So I always like to share my story. So there's nowhere else to start but the beginning. So I joined Scentsy in May of 2010, and I joined Scentsy as a newlywed. The only reason I joined Scentsy is because of the fact that my consultant was moving away. I had been buying cash and carry from this gal who lives an hour away from me. I would drive all the way up there, buy my Scentsy from her, and we would do this, my mom and I, like 2 or 3 times a year. We didn't even know we could host parties or anything. We just bought from her. That was it. She didn't try to get us to host or join or anything like that. Shame on her, right? So she was moving, and I was like, oh, what am I going to do? How am I going to get my Scentsy? So she suggested then that I join, and so I did. And the only reason I joined was I thought, I'll just get a discount. I'll sell to my mom. You know, that was my whole plan. Did anybody else in here join without a plan? It's okay, it'll still work out. It will still work out, I promise you. Yeah, so I joined without a plan. I just got started. My launch party was almost 70 days into my business. I barely squeaked it in to get Sensational Start Level 1. And from there, my business organically grew. It just kept happening. I kept getting party after party, and it was easy. Then about 1.5 years later, I went to my first reunion. Has anybody in here been to a reunion before? What's it like?
Amazing.
Yes, yes, there's nothing like it. This is really great too. I'm really glad you're here, but reunion, whoop, that's like amazing. You've got to get there, find a way to get there. So reunion, I'm sitting in these classes, I'm sitting in the general session, and I'm hearing from all of these consultants, men, women, all different ages, from all different parts of the country, and they all found success. And what really clicked for me, and I hope you all get this too, is that exactly the person that you are today, you can have success too. There's not a certain personality, there's not a certain area of the country. It is not about any of those things. What it is about is you. And that's what I realized at that reunion. So I left reunion and I was ready to rock. I was ready to make this into a business. So I left and I switched my mind. It was no longer a hobby, it was a career. And so every day I made career choices. And that's what we have to do. We have to make a choice that this is a career. And that's what I did. And that's when everything truly changed. And now here I am, 4 years later, roughly, and my life is very different. It's way better. Here's some of them right here. I have an amazing group called the Sunshine State Superstars, and there's about 350 of us, and it's the best part of my business is the team and helping them and seeing them achieve things, and it's amazing. So don't sell yourself short. Remember that you can have success. It's not just a certain person. So that's a little bit about me and my heart. I like you guys to know who I am, kind of where I come from a little bit. And now what I want to do is I want to talk to you about what the training is prepared for today. So what we're going to talk about is, let's first talk about lists. Has anybody noticed how often you scroll the internet and you see lists? Like, for example, I decided to do a Google search this morning and see what kind of lists I could find. So, for example, I Googled, let's see, tips to get your kids to eat their vegetables. 10 moms share tips to get kids to eat healthy foods at home. 10 resolutions every mom should make for 2016. Then I Googled tips to lose weight. 7 tips to lose weight faster. How to lose weight fast, 10 quick tips. Then I Googled, 16 ways to lose weight. How to lose weight, 40 tips, easy and fast. Then I Googled network marketing tips. 7 tips for network marketing success. 14 free marketing tips. Lists are everywhere, right? I mean, we're bombarded with lists. So what I want you to do is I want you to pull out your workbook. And in your workbooks, on page 8 is the section for this breakout. And you're going to notice at the top, it's going to say top 5 things to know to run a successful Scentsy business. So I'm going to give you just like a minute or so, and I want you to really think about this. Maybe you're training a new consultant, you're talking to a friend who needs help. What would you say are your top 5 things that they need to know to have a successful Scentsy business? And I'm gonna make you share, so. Okay, so you might not have 5 yet, but you might have a couple. So what I want to hear is some of your ideas. So somebody raise their hand. Who wants to share one?
Do a launch party.
Okay. Okay, so launch party. What else do we have? You in the back, in the Enjoy the Journey shirt.
Believe in yourself.
Oh, you're awesome, believe in you, all that good stuff. Awesome. Right in front.
Okay, so I have follow-ups are a lifeline to your business.
Very true. Okay, and let's get one more. So we got launch party. If you want to write these down, I wanted to write them down for you. Launch party, believe in yourself, and follow-ups. And you right here.
Branding yourself.
Branding yourself. Awesome, I love it. And pretty much all of these you can find in the expo. So that's pretty cool. All right, so these amazing tips from you guys. We've got launch party, believe in yourself, follow-ups, and branding yourself. Sorry for my horrible handwriting right now. So those are some great tips. And I guarantee if we all put our heads together and wrote up a list, we could have hundreds of great tips and they would all be amazing. But one thing that's not on this list that really must be on every single list is gaining new contacts. Gaining new contacts is actually what we're going to talk about today. Gaining new contacts is something that is critical for the growth of your business. Yes, critical. It is absolutely the #1 thing above anything else, because gaining new contacts leads to everything else. Gaining new contacts leads to new hosts, new recruits, events, referrals. Gaining new contacts leads to all of those things, which we of course need. So what the real thing is too is it creates a consistent pattern in your business, a consistent pattern of the selling, of the parties, of the recruits. It's going to create that consistent pattern for you. So no matter what else you do, no matter what else you think you do, what else you think you need to do, I want to challenge you in 2016 to center your focus every single month on making sure that you're doing things that are going to ensure you are gaining new contacts. That really should be the forefront of your thought process as you're setting your months up, as you're taking your daily action. Really focus on that, because when you focus on that, the other things will be a result, right? Okay, so before I share with you what is something that maybe you're doing, I'd love to hear from a couple of you. What is something that you're doing or you've recently done that you have found really helped you with gaining new contacts? Like, what's something that you've done that you gained some new people or even one new person recently? I'd love to hear from somebody. Brittany.
I did a fundraiser, and that pulled in a lot of new clients.
Awesome. So she's saying that she did a fundraiser. What kind of fundraiser did you do?
It was a personal for a family who their kid has cerebral palsy, and they were working towards getting a new handicap accessible van. So we just did, it was a full catalog online, but she had a ton of people to order.
Awesome. So you probably marketed a lot on social media.
I did, and then I followed up with, I sent thank you cards with scent circles to everyone who ordered, and that was like, yeah.
So she did in case any of you maybe in the back didn't hear her, she did a fundraiser for a family in need. They were trying to acquire a new van to help with his wheelchair, I'm guessing, wheelchair accessible van. So she did a fundraiser, really focused it online. Also, I'm sure gave them materials, and that was a great way. And then she sent out thank you cards with a free scent circle to everybody who ordered. So it's really great. You, all the way in the back.
I do referral incentives. Like if somebody refers me to a customer, I give them a bar, so they continue to refer me, and they just like I call it like a referral bar.
I love that. Love it. So she's got a great referral system, which is something we're going to talk about in a little while, actually. And I love it. I like the name too. So you call it Refer a Bar.
Yeah.
That's cute. I like it. So those are some really great examples. There's so many ways that we can make sure that we're expanding our customer base and meeting new people. Today I'm going to share with you a few techniques. And the first one I'm going to talk to you about may seem truly simple, but I think when it boils down to it, if we are actually honest with ourselves, the issue isn't that we don't know that we should be doing it, but the issue is that we're not consistently doing it. Can anyone guess what that is? Giving out samples. 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 I think if we're honest with ourselves, even me, in the 6 years I've been in business, I can say, yeah, I know I need to make samples, but am I consistently making those samples and consistently giving them out? Not always. And so that's what we're going to talk about first. So let's think for a second about our purchases that we've made in the past with other companies, whether it's someone that you've shopped from in person or something that you've bought online. So think about your purchase that you made, and when your package came in or when you met that person to grab your product, all that was in the bag was your product, nothing else. And you were happy, you got what you purchased, nothing was broken or everything was as you ordered. Okay, good, you move along with your day. But what about a purchase that you've made where you received some free samples with it? What did you feel? How was that experience different? Did you feel kind of ecstatic to have something different in there that you hadn't planned on being in there, that you hadn't ordered? The answer is yes, right? Yes, when we get something free, everybody loves free, when we get something free that we didn't plan on, we feel excited about it. So think about that. Like, I've bought stuff online before, and I even get to pick out my free samples at the end of my shopping cart, and I'm like, oh, this is so exciting. It's fun to get free samples. So first off, we really need to think about our outlook on this sample giving. Are we looking at it as, I'm trying to push someone to buy something, or are we looking at it like, I'm giving someone something that they're going to be excited to receive? You see the difference in our outlook? That's going to make a big difference on if we want to be giving it out or not, right? If we feel like I'm giving someone something they're going to value and be happy to get, we're going to be much more likely to be giving it, right? Right. Okay. So let's talk about samples, right? We have a huge variety of products that we can sample. And now, in these amazing kits, we have more that Scentsy is making for us. I love that Scentsy is making our job simple, right? Simplicity. So they're making our job more simple. Why? We don't have to spend as much time making samples. Now we have laundry samples, clean samples that we can give out by purchasing. It makes our jobs so easy. Now we don't have to print ingredient lists and fiddle with all that. We can just purchase these and give them out. So I love it. So we have so many things that we can sample and give, so we've got to make sure that we're doing it. So how can you use these samples, these newer product categories, and these exciting samples to help you grow your business? Well, you've got to be taking action with it, right? You've got to use them. So how do I use samples? Let's think about this. What do I truly do with my samples? and these new product categories. What am I going to be doing with them? How am I going to utilize them? So a big part of this is our planning ahead. It's not just winging it. You have to plan ahead. So ask yourself, where am I going? And that's what our next section is. In your notebook, you're going to see right below where we wrote before, you're going to list 5 to 10 places, however many you can think of, that you're going to be going over the next 2 weeks. I'm going to give you a minute or two to do this, and this is important, guys. This is something that we should be in a consistent pattern of doing. At the beginning of a new week, we should think to ourselves, where am I going this week? And write out a list so you can plan ahead, just like this. So think about, where am I going over the next couple weeks? All right, so by now you should have a few places on your list. You might not have completed it, but definitely work on completing that this evening, or on your plane ride home, or on your car ride home if you're not driving, of course. So if you haven't finished that list, make sure you finish that, because it's important that we plan ahead. Preparation is really key in being successful. You can't just wing it all the time. You've got to have some preparation. So now we know where we're going. We're prepared. So next is actually the action of making the samples. So let's talk about that a little bit. I want to hear from one of you out here. What kind of samples do you most often make, and how do you make them?
With wax, I cut up felt pieces and dip it in the pathway. That way I can finish on with one thing of wax.
So if you guys did not hear her, she actually uses the felt version of making samples. So she melts down her wax and she cuts strips of felt into little small squares or long strips, and then dips it into the wax. And your wax will go really far when you do it that way, really, really far. And then once you've kind of dipped it, you want to lay it in parchment paper, let it dry, and it's a great way to make wax samples. Somebody else? Pink shirt.
I use the molds from the Scentsy family store,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of filling them all the way up, I just do just coat the bottom of it. And what I do, I use the warmers from a few years ago. It was the God Bless America one with the square top. So I used the corner of it to be able to pour the wax off. I did start using it in the microwave a little bit because it melted it faster. Then I got the microwave all steamy and stuff. So I went back to using just the warmer, just melting that really hot, and just using it, just a little bit in the bottom.
Perfect. I love it. Yep. She's using the Scentsy Family Store molds, which is actually what I do. I have one down here to show you. That's actually what I do too. Mine are super simple. I just use the acrylic molds from the Scentsy Family Store, my business card, and then I put the sticker on the back so they know what they're smelling, which is important. You can't give them a sample and then they have no idea what they're smelling, so you gotta make sure they do. Right there.
My sister and I, in-law and I split a thing of like the plastic test tubes, and we did laundry liquid samples in them, because that's a product that people really want to try before they commit to buying it.
Totally, 100%. Most customers will say that at parties. They'll be like, oh, well, my son or my daughter or my husband or me are sensitive, and they always want to try it. So that's a great thing to do. You can even, side note, you can even do, like we talk about loaning warmers, you can even loan laundry to somebody. Let them try the whole laundry system for 2 or 3 days and then take it back from them. But trying the laundry is really important. You're absolutely right. So those are some great ideas. And I shared with you what I do. I do the wax with the acrylic molds, really super easy. And then when it comes to the other products, I like to actually do this. So I purchased the Skin and Groom samples, and now I will purchase the laundry samples. And I purchased the postcards from the Scentsy Family Store. I love them. They look professional, great photos. And then on the back, I use glue dots to attach the sample. And I do this for the women and the men's product line. See? And the little glue dots work perfectly, and you can pick up glue dots anywhere. And then I just put my label on there too. And oftentimes I'll write a little note. These are things that I'll put in my orders with my customers, give out to people, things like that. So there's lots of different ways that you can make samples. There's even, like if you go to YouTube and you just search Scentsy samples, you'll find tons of videos. There's people who use those little crinkle cutter things, or people who will even take one cube and take a pair of scissors and cut it into 4, so there's tiny little samples. So just depending on how much wax you have, what your budget is, and what you want them to look like. And the truth of the matter is with your samples, the sample, I think sometimes we spend too much time producing the samples. And we have to remember that creating the samples is not the income producing portion of this activity. So we might feel good and be like, oh, I spent my whole Saturday making samples, yeah. Okay, you're gonna give them out, because that's what matters. Like, don't spend so much time making your samples look amazing, spending hours on your samples. Make them look professional, of course, but don't feel like you gotta go overboard with them. Buy your samples or make your samples and spend the majority of your time on the sample subject, physically giving them out. Make sure that you're not off balance, spending way more time making them than you even are investing in the income producing activity of giving them out and following up on those. Okay, so my team and I, we always talk about the 50-10 rule, and that's what we focus on for our samples. Has anybody heard of the 50-10 rule before, besides you guys? So the 50-10 rule works like this. The beginning of every month, we start the 50-10 rule. That means that we must have 50 samples. And your 50 samples can be whatever you want. It can be laundry products, skin, groom, wax, whatever you want to sample. But you must have 50 ready to go at the beginning of every month. The 10 stands for 10 possibility packets. You also must have 10 possibility packets ready to go for the month. So before February is over, for example, you must have all 50 samples and all 10 possibility packs gone. And throughout the month, we kind of check in and talk like, how many of your samples do you have left? Like, you've got to make sure that before that month is over, you've got all of those items out. Giving them out in person, putting them in orders. Same thing with your possibility packets. Find people to mail them to. Find a waiter or a waitress or a cashier to give them to because you feel like they would be great as a part of your team. Make sure that you commit to a goal. If you just say, oh, I'm gonna make samples and I'm gonna give my samples out, plans often fall apart unless we have something to remind us. So that's why I like the 50-10 rule, because I have a big bowl that I put all 50 of my samples in and all 10 of my possibility packets. And so I know when I leave the house, my bowl's right there. So I better grab a handful and I better make sure that they're gone. I promise you, if you, for these next 3 months, 5 months, commit to giving out these samples and working by this 50-10 rule, you will notice you are gaining new contacts. I promise you. You can't not. So try it. I challenge you. Just try it. Just trust me. Okay, so wax samples are often the easiest, but of course you're going to find in your kit, you've got awesome other ones that you can purchase, and other people make samples as well. So find the sample style that works for you, change it up month to month if you need to so you don't get bored, and get them out. Use that action and get them out. So now that we have done our first steps, which is knowing where we're going and getting prepared. So we know where we're going to go because we've already written them down, 5 to 10 places we're going to be going. Next, we've been prepared, we've made our samples. Now we've got to ask ourselves, who? Who am I going to be seeing at these places? And again, this is not just a one-time activity. This should be a weekly activity. If you know I've got a dentist appointment this week and Johnny's got soccer practice this week, you should be making notes of that and planning ahead and thinking, what am I going to bring? What am I going to share, right? So this needs to be a consistent pattern for you moving forward. So now let's think about who we're going to see. So look at your list of the 5 to 10 places that you're going to be visiting and ask yourself, who am I going to be seeing at these places? And just jot a name or receptionist or whatever next to that place. So I'll give you just a little bit of time for that. Your places that you're going to be visiting. So ask yourself, when you're getting ready to go to these places, you're preparing for the week. This person, receptionist at the dentist office. Tanya, the other lady who sits near me at soccer practice. Ask yourself, what samples would be best to bring to this person? What would they find the most value in? What would they enjoy? Sometimes you don't know them very well, of course, but just make your best guess at what you think they would most relate to or enjoy using. So you can see that planning ahead is really important as a part of getting the action out of giving out these samples. So make notes next to that person later in your book and think about what is going to benefit that person most. Okay, so handing samples out isn't the only way to meet new contacts. There are lots of ways that we can meet new contacts, but handing samples is one that 100% we must do. We must always consistently be in a pattern of giving out samples. But there's lots of other things too. So some of the things I wanted to talk to you about, the first one I'm going to talk to you about actually is events. Who in here consistently does events? It don't have to be big events, it can be little events, right? Okay. Who in here has never done an event yet? Okay, cool. So the thing with events is a lot of people, when they hear the word event, they think of a big home and garden show where they're investing a lot of money to be there and investing a lot of money in product. And that is, personally, that is not what I mean when I say events. When I say events, I mean small things. Like the event that I just did the day before yesterday, the day before I flew out. It was called Sweet Treats. It's a charity event in my town, and it's for the arts in local schools. It's $25 for a table. These are the kind of events that I thrive on, that I love, because you invest a little bit to be there, and your reward is often great, because you're not in this huge booth, and you have time to interact and talk with people and build relationships and get contact information. So let's talk a little bit about these events. People are always asking, how do you get events? The most common way that I find that I'm getting events on my calendar is because of using this. It's because I'm talking to people about it, because I'm asking about it. So when you're at your home parties, when you're talking to your friends and family, tell them that you're looking for events. When they're driving around town, maybe they see a sign that says something about a festival coming up. You should be the first person that comes to their mind, and they should text you or call you and tell you about it. That they don't know that you need that unless you ask them for it. So make sure that everyone on your list of 100, everyone you know, knows that you're looking for those things. Also posting on social media. Every single month I post something along the lines of, I'm looking for events. What event do you and your family never miss? Or what event coming up in the spring would you not even think about missing? And people will comment on there. They don't know why you're asking. Like, you could even just say, hey, what's a family-friendly event coming up that you would never miss? And I promise you, if you post this every month, you're going to start getting ideas filtered through there, because people will comment. People like to share. Like, if you find a new restaurant you like to tell people about it, right? It's the same thing with this topic. So ask consistently. Don't just post it once and then nobody comments and you give up. Post it consistently. Try it once a month and see what happens for you. That's how I get a lot of my leads. Also, make sure that when you are at any type of event, your focus is not selling your product. That is going to naturally happen. It's going to naturally happen. People are going to smell the Scentsy products, they're going to come over, they're going to look at it, they're going to want to buy it. You don't have to push a sale. You know that, right? I mean, you agree, you don't feel like you have to be a pushy salesperson to sell our products, right? So why do we get so focused on selling products at events? What we need to be focused on is building relationships at events, having conversations with people. Don't just talk to them about Scentsy, just like our home parties. Talk to them about, oh, your daughter's cute, or find ways to talk to them about other things as well to make them feel relatable to you. So that's really, really important. And then when you're at your events, utilize drawing slips to gain their contact information, and always offer a booking game. Like, I don't know if some of you have seen on my YouTube channel, I have a game that I play called the Dice Game, and I play that at pretty much all of my parties, and it's really simple. You just need to pick 6 different prizes, and you need 1 die, and they roll the die, and whatever number they roll represents a prize. So if they book a party, that's their booking gift from you. And I love it because I can bring it to events, or I can do it in a home party setting. So that's what I play at my events. I'll say, someone's interested in a product, I'll say, oh my gosh, I'm doing a really great booking special today. All you gotta do is roll that die and you'll find out what you get. Everybody rolls it because everybody wants to know what they could get. So they roll a die and I say, oh look, you rolled a blah blah, you get a blah blah for doing a party with me. And then I have a basket party there. So that's how I utilize my events to book parties. And of course, when I'm booking my parties and I hold my parties with them, I offer hostess flipping. So that's how I get hosts. So it's just it's a pattern of consistency. Holding events, getting contact information, trying to book parties at your events, trying to turn that party into your next team member. You see how when you're doing those things, you're going to be in a consistent pattern of getting sales, getting recruits, right? Okay, so next let's talk about home parties. Home parties are my favorite thing to talk about because I love home parties. I like them so much because they create more home parties. If you're running your parties the way that other successful consultants are teaching you that they're running their parties, you're going to have a very high chance that you're booking parties off of your parties. So when you're at your parties, of course, you make sure that they fill out their drawing slips completely so you gain all of their new contact information, and make sure that you get their emails. When you sit down to check out with them, give them, like for example, if you play the ticket game at your party and you're giving out tickets and they get prizes for tickets, so doing something like that, give them extra tickets for filling every line out on their drawing, on their order form. Or just flat out ask them. That's what I do. Like if they come to me with their order form and they haven't filled out all the lines, I'll say, well, what's your email? They won't say, I'm not giving it to you. They give it to you. You ask them for it directly, they'll give it to you. If not, okay, but in most scenarios, if I say, what's your email? They'll give me their email. So make sure you're getting their contact information during the home party. And then of course, working, using some type of an incentive, really focusing on the party options that we have and using your parties to book parties. Because guess what? Home parties are gonna lead to more home parties, and then you're increasing your circle of influence. You're gaining new contacts, just like that. And don't forget about your repeat hosts. A lot of people think repeat hosts are not a way to gain new customers, but if you're doing some type of reward system, like I do, where you reward your host for hosting with you again 6 months later, you're going to find that in the last 6 months, she's lived her life. She's maybe met some new people or working a new job or got a new neighbor. Repeat hosts can also bring you new customers. So don't count that one out either. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about, actually no, there's two more, is first is basket parties. Basket parties, the way that basket parties really truly can bring you new contacts is by your host. Your host is basically your team member when she's hosting a basket party for you, right? She's the one selling the product, she's the one trying to gain all the contact information, so make sure that you're encouraging her to do that. Give her some reason to want to do it. I'll tell my host, hey, I'll give you a free bar of the scent of the month if you make sure that all of your drawing or all of your order forms have all the contact info filled out on the top. I just give them the bar that was already in my basket tester set anyway. Easy. And they always do it. I mean, they consistently do it. So offer something small, or even just put it on their radar that you need all that contact information. So that's one big way. This is a huge increase in your circle of influence because you're not knowing these people that she's sharing the basket party with. And also doing something to encourage your hostess to pass the pouch or pass the basket. That of course is another way to gain new contacts. So doing some type of incentive to encourage her to want to do that. Thanks to Scentsy's generosity, we have the perpetual party reward. So hey, you'll get a half-priced item if you pass this on to somebody else. It doesn't have to be something out of your pocket. You can just offer that. So it's really that simple. Basket parties always can lead to new contacts as well. So the last one I want to talk about is what you talked about in the back, which is referrals. Referrals are really obviously a huge way that we can gain new contacts. And my favorite way to work on getting referrals is actually through social media. So I will take a photo of myself on one of my trips, or I'll take a headshot photo, and I will add some text onto that photo. Have you guys ever heard of Rana Designs or Word Swag? Any of those apps that you can purchase from the App Store? And some of them are free, but they're very inexpensive, and it's a business write-off. So purchase one of those apps or get one of those apps for free, and you can actually add text onto your photo. So I will use one of those apps, and on my photo I will say, am I your Scentsy consultant? And then I'll throw my personal website on there as well. I'll post it on my Facebook page, and I'll say, am I your Scentsy consultant? If so, share this photo and add a sentence or two about why you choose to shop with me. Tag me in it so I'm sure to see it. You'll be really glad you did. I have gotten so many customers and so many recruits actually from that. I do it at least once a month, and every month consistently it's different people doing it. Because if you're doing your parties, doing your basket parties and things like that, and you're gaining new customers, you're adding them on Facebook like I do, you're going to find that consistently different people are sharing it. And of course, introducing you to their newsfeed. So I love, love, love that feature. And of course, you've got your website on the photo so they can easily see that and go browse around if they're nosy, which most people are going to want to check it out. So So now we know some ideas, also creating a loyalty program or a referral program, like she was mentioning back there. That's one other thing you can do as well, is come up with what type of a referral program do I want and how do I want to run it out. You can use something like Vistaprint to print some inexpensive business cards with your referral program on it. Find a referral program that you feel confident about, works for you, and start sharing it today with your customers. So we've got our plan, we know where we're going, we know who we're gonna see there, and we're prepared. We've got our samples, we know what we need to do. So plans are really great, but like I said earlier, oftentimes we plan and we plan and we plan, and then the moment comes and we freeze, right? I think we've all been there, we've been in that moment where we're like, oh, I wanna give this sample, but I don't wanna be annoying, or oh, she looks busy. We always assume and we always shoot ourselves in the foot and limit our opportunities when we do that. So anybody have any tips in the audience? Anyone have been going through some things that have made it really challenging for them to get uncomfortable and give out a sample, and a tip that they have that has helped them to get over those things? Anybody want to share? Yes.
I'm a veteran and I have PTSD, so talking to people kind of bothers me and crowds bother me. So I make sure I hand a sample to anybody who hands me a receipt. So if I'm at McDonald's, they give me a receipt and I strike up a conversation that way.
Awesome. That's a great idea. So just setting a goal, kind of like the idea of the 50-10 rule. Like, I will, if someone hands me a receipt, I will be handing them a sample. Like committing to that action. I like that. That's really cool. So yeah, so truly what I have found is the best way to really kill our anxiety, to really stop our anxiety in our tracks, is action. Would anybody in this room agree with me that after doing something several times or tons of times, it gets easier to do it, right? Like, we know that if we do something, it's gonna be uncomfortable the first time, the 5th time, the 3rd time, whatever, but if we consistently do it, it gets easier every single time. So that's what we've really got to get into, a habit. Find a system, like what she mentioned with, if someone's given me a receipt for something, I'm giving them a sample. Or like I mentioned with the 50-10 rule, find a plan, create a plan, and commit to sticking to that plan to ensure that you're taking the action which will in turn kill that anxiety, right? Don't let the fear ruin that for you. So I had planned on doing a little role play, but I don't want to eat into your lunch too much, so we're going to skip that role play, but I really want to encourage you to, when you go home, these things that you've written down, your places that you're going, who you're going to see, I really want to encourage you to get together with some of your local team members, or even tonight in your rooms with the person you're with. Sit down with them and role play. And say you're going to see the receptionist at the dentist's office. I want you to role play with each other and get comfortable with giving out the samples. And maybe start incorporating that into your meetings with your local team members. So I want to close with encouraging you guys to really get uncomfortable and to really start thinking outside of the box and also planning ahead. When we plan ahead and we prepare ourselves for things like giving out our samples, when we have consistency in our efforts, finding events, hosting parties, getting basket parties, asking for referrals, when we have consistency in those efforts, we are going to have no ceiling. When we live in fear and doubt, and we don't push ourselves to be uncomfortable, and we don't pursue gaining new contacts, we will have a ceiling on our success, and we will limit ourselves. So ask yourself the simple question, am I going to put a ceiling on my success in 2016, or am I going to have no ceiling on my success in 2016? Because truly the choice is only up to you. So thank you guys so much. Do you have a question you want to ask?
What is in the possibility package?
So I actually have a YouTube video on it. If you want to just go to YouTube and search Scentsy Possibility Packets, you'll see it. But it's really simple. It's just like a join brochure, a catalog, one of my little postcards that I use on Vistaprint. It says like, this is my job, it can be yours too, and there's some photos from some of my trips. So I think a lot of people are visual, so they like to see those things. So it's just stuff like that, just a few little things. But check out my video, you'll hear more about it and why.
Real quick, I just wanted to add something that I found that helped me when you were talking about events and they fill out their little board fight slip or whatever. I always write on the back of it if there's something, she had a little baby with a soft pink blanket or whatever. I'll write baby with a pink blanket or crying, you know, whatever, something about it. And then when I follow up and I go to the call, I can kind of incorporate, you know, like, oh, that, you know, like, so
That's
soft.
such a great point.
Something to personalize the conversation and have them feel like, wow,
Because
he
you-
remembers my son.
Yes. Because you get it, you know the relationship is important, and it's important that she remembers you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You remember everybody, but if you have it written down, cheat, they think, oh my gosh, you remember me at all those people.
That's great, I love it. Thank you for sharing that. So yeah, so you guys are free to go eat your lunch now.